SCP-9718 Object Class Safe. Special Containment Procedures. SCP-9718 must be kept inside a sealed room at site.
Redacted.
Looking inside the containment chamber strictly forbidden. SCP-9718's appealing and delicious appearance may deceive personnel and create the urge to consume the donor. A backup generator must be connected to the containment chamber in the event of any power outage. The generator must be capable of supplying power to SCP-9718 for 24 hours straight. If SCP-9718's power source is interrupted for even 1 second, a 24-hour lockdown procedure must be enacted. SCP-9718 is a Renta D08 model donor cooker. A reset occurs every 24 hours. During these reset events, an untouched and uncooked chicken log manifests on the donor cooker. Any food prepared using the chicken donor manifested by this donor cooker will be classified as SCP-9718-1. SCP-9718-1s must not be consumed under any circumstances. Individuals who take even a single bite of SCP-9718s will begin to exhibit certain symptoms. A person who consumes even the smallest piece of the food loses control over themselves until the entire meal has been finished. According to the victims, the food tastes completely normal and delicious. However, towards the end of the meal, individuals begin to feel as if they are eating insects instead of chicken. After consumption, most victims experience nausea. It has been reported that some victims vomit immediately after consuming the meal. Individuals who consume SCP-9718 begin to feel disgust towards chicken donor and refuse to eat it again. In subjects who consume SCP-9718 together with fermented dairy products, the effects of SCP-9718 have been observed to be lessened. For details information, refer to test log 9718-07. SCP-9718 must be supplied with power at all times. If SCP-9718 loses power in any way, the donor log inside SCP-9718 will uncontrollably produce salmonella until the donor log has been consumed. Under no circumstances should any food produced from SCP-9718 be consumed. If consumed, severe nausea, vomiting, abdominal pain, watery or bloody diarrhea, headaches, high fever, and fatigue may occur. Without timely intervention, this may result in death. Incident Report 9718-B. The Last Order. On the 14th, 09, in 2025, a temporary power outage occurred at a small roadside restaurant in Izmir, Turkey. The establishment unknowingly housed SCP-9718 several months prior to the Foundation's containment. The local electrical records later confirmed the outage lasted approximately 11 minutes. According to the recovered security footage, the owner attempted to restart the donor cooker several times before leaving the kitchen unattended. During the interval, SCP-9718 produced an anomalous contaminated chicken log consistent with later Foundation observations. At approximately 22:13, a 26-year-old university student identified as Emir K, entered the restaurant shortly before closing time. Witnesses stated the kitchen had nearly no remaining food except for one fresh chicken doner. The owner reportedly warned the customer, "It's the last one left. You'll either love it or regret it." The statement was believed to be a joke at the time. Emir ordered a full chicken doner wrap with fries, and Elon omitted due to the restaurant running out of dairy products earlier that evening. Security footage recovered from the dining area showed the subject behaving normally for the first several minutes. However, midway through the meal, the subject began visibly sweating despite no increase in the room temperature. He repeatedly paused chewing, staring at the food with visible discomfort. Witness testimony stated, Emir muttered, "Why does it crunch?" Despite obvious distress, the subject continued eating against his apparent will. Attempts by nearby patrons to speak with them were ignored. Witness claimed his hands were shaking violently while continuing to lift the wrap towards his mouth. Near the end of consumption, the subject began gagging repeatedly. Vomiting did not occur until the entire meal had been finished. Roughly 2 minutes later, the subject collapsed beside this table. Emergency responders initially suspected severe food poisoning. During transport, paramedics documented contagious vomiting, bloody diarrhea, fever exceeding 40.1 Celsius, delirious statements involving worms under the bread, refusals to stop scratching his tongue. Hospital staff later reported the subject repeatedly attempted to tear out pieces of his own mouth tissue while screaming that insects were still moving between his teeth. The suspect expired approximately 19 hours after consumption due to septic complication associated with extreme salmonella infection and dehydration. An unusual post-mortem detail was later noted. Despite severe starvation, indicators were caused by prolonged vomiting. Partially digested chicken meat remained present in the stomach far beyond expected digestion timelines. The restaurant closed 3 days later after 14 additional illness reports linked to the leftover meat carved from the restaurant manifested log. Foundation agents embedded within local health authorities intercepted the investigation shortly after. SCP-9718 was contained within 48 hours. The restaurant owner was administered Class B anesthetics and now believes the outbreak originated from improperly stored poultry. No surviving victims from the incident of 9718-E have lately consumed chicken doner again. Emergency containment safety procedures for SCP-9718 during powder failure events. Document classification: internal foundation use only. Clearance level 3. Site 41, Foodborne Anomalous Division. SCP-9718 displays immediate hostile biological behavior following any interruption in electrical supply. Even power losses lasting less than 1 second are sufficient to trigger contamination events. When empowered, SCP-9718 manifests a biological hazardous chicken donor log contaminating extreme concentrations or anomalous salmonella strains. Food produced from contaminated log becomes classified as SCP-9718-1. Under no circumstances is SCP-9718-1 to be consumed. Personnel must understand that SCP-9718-1 possesses a compulsive consumption effect capable of overriding self-preservation instincts even after minimum indigestion. Automatic facility response. The following systems must activate immediately following power interruption. Emergency backup generators. Secondary battery relay system. Audible contaminated alarm. Red alarming lights inside contaminating kitchen. Automated lockdown shutters. Biohazard ventilation isolation. If backup power restoration exceeds 4 seconds, the event is to be treated as confirmed contaminated scenario. Initial staff response. Upon confirmation of power loss. Step 1. Contaminated lockdown. The nearest staff member must seal contaminated kitchen access. Prevent civilian unauthorized staff entry. Suspend all food transport operations. Notify site command immediately. No personnel may enter SCP-9718 contaminated without Level B biohazard equipment after contamination status is declared. Step 2. Verify manifestation. 2 authorized personnel must visually inspect SCP-9718 through reinforced observation glass. Indicators of contamination include newly manifested chicken log, excess grease projection, audible sizzling despite inactive heating elements, odor described as sweet rot, burnt meats, wet cardboard, insect activity near ventilation systems. Under no circumstances should staff directly smell the manifested station intentionally. Consumption prevention measures. The compulsive properties of SCP-9718-1 make accidental exposure extremely dangerous. The following actions are mandatory. Remove all bread, sauces, vegetables, and serving materials from containment, and all non-essential personnel from kitchen wing. Disable cafeteria access on affected floor. Confiscate food from personnel entering quarantine zone area. Perform psychological evaluation on staff, expressing curiosity towards the manifested meat. Personnel reporting statements such as, "It smells good," "It looks normal," "Maybe we should test it," must be removed from active duty immediately. Disposal procedures. Approved disposal method. Contaminated or donor logs are not to be destroyed mechanically. Previous attempts involving incarceration, industrial shredding, chemical dissolution, resulted in airborne bacteria spread. The only approved neutralization method is controlled consumption by D-Class personnel under medical supervision. D-Class feeding procedure. Required equipment. Full medical restraint chair. Intravenous hydration system. Antiemetics. Broad spectrum antibiotics. Fermented dairy products. Emergency cardiac equipment. Subjects must consume minimum 250 milliliters fermented dairy beverage before exposure. Additional dairy every 3 minutes during the meal progression. Current evidence suggests fermented dairy weakens the compulsive and gastrointestinal effects of SCP-9718-1. Personnel safety warnings. Never allow partial consumption. Subject to stop eating SCP-9718-1 midway through consumption exhibit severe panic. Violent self-harm. Attempts to consume non-food material. Hallucinations involving insects. Uncontrollable vomiting. In 3 recorded cases, subjects attempted to continue eating after vomiting. Post-exposure quarantine. Any exposed individuals must undergo 72 hours of medical observation, gastrointestinal screening, psychological assessment, bacterial blood testing, Common long-term effects include permanent aversion to chicken donor, recurring insects-related nightmares, phantom taste sensations, nausea triggered by cooking meat donor odors. Absolute prohibitions. The following actions are strictly forbidden. Tasting SCP-9718-1 for research. Allowing civilian exposure. Transporting contaminated meat off-site. Storing manifested logs overnight. Consuming SCP-9718-1 recreationally. Recording mukbang-style footage for testing. Violation of these directives will result in immediate disciplinary action. At the following incident, 9718-B, all contaminated sites housing SCP-9718 are now required to maintain triple redundant power systems, isolated generated room, daily dairy stockpiles, on-site infectious disease specialist. Foundation analysts currently consider SCP-9718 one of the most deceptively dangerous food-related anomalies in containment due to its normal appearance and delayed psychological effects.